I had somebody ask me one time what post-traumatic stress felt like, and I said it was like having a beehive in your chest. So sometimes it's quiet, sometimes it's been hit by a stick, and it kind of goes through, but it's always there.
Chris, first off, I want to say thank you for your service. And, when you were in the Marine Corps, what was your rank, and can you tell me what you were doing?
I, for some reason, chose to be on the bomb squad, so Explosive Ordinance Disposal. I spent a good amount of my time taking apart bombs on the side of the road in Afghanistan, Iraq, Africa, and places like that. A lot of people talk about military folks self-medicating, whether it be by alcohol or by drugs or some sort of other behavior. I kind of self-medicated by going back out on deployments. Like I would volunteer to go back out. That was much easier than realizing that I had some issues and coming home to kind of address them. Yeah, so I think when I started going on back-to-back deployments and I started being exposed to a few of the things that that I was, at one point I had 6 or 7 guys that worked for me that lost their limbs. I had 2 guys that got killed that worked for me. So those things kind of happen, and in the moment you don't really have time to process those. You can't really process those. They kind of get stuffed back into a box, and you just go back on the next mission or the next deployment, and then you come home and and your daughter wants to play, and if you open that up, that spot in you that allows for that kind of emotion, then everything else kind of comes with it. It makes it really difficult when you're in the grocery store and someone drops something in another aisle, and you get this noise that you're not accustomed to hearing, and you respond to it like you did when you were deployed. And those two things aren't supposed to mix, I don't think, but they have a habit of kind of shoving themselves into your normal life, and that ends up being really hard to deal with. To separate out between normal life and deployed life, and deployed life was just easier because I knew everything was a threat there. I knew everything was a hazard there. When I'm back at home, I wasn't sure. My wife is the one that said, sat me down after probably 10, we were probably married about 10 or 12 years at that point, and she told me, I love you, and the kids love you. If you don't get some help, we're gonna leave. And that was a very real kind of moment for me.
Chris, tell me about the art therapy program that you did.
I drew when I was a kid, and I doodled when I was a kid, and I always did it, and I always had it around me, and then I always thought, well, it's time to put away childish things, and it's time to go be this big bad Marine, and that kind of thing. So I had preconceived notions, probably as a grown adult, that art therapy is, it's not for me. But I had never found something that resonated with me that helped me get to kind of the root of what was wrong, because I didn't want to explain it anymore. So when I did art therapy, or when I did the mask making process, I didn't have to say a word. I just put it down on paper, I put it down on canvas, or I put it down on a mask, and it was readily apparent what I was feeling. This is it's kind of a self-portrait. I didn't know it was going to be a self-portrait when I did it. So it was how I felt on the inside, angry, a demon. I felt like the things that I had done, how could I be a normal person, kind of on the outside. So I got a traumatic brain injury on one side of my head, so this is kind of like, this wire reminded me of tripwires for roadside bombs. So that's why I grabbed it and I put it in there and coming out of my head. And then I had it done in one sitting, actually. And after I did that, I asked to every one of my extra appointments in my schedule to be filled with art therapy. So I did it there, and I asked if I could learn how to oil paint. And she kind of laughed and told me, she said, no one's ever asked to learn how to oil paint before. But that's what I did. So that's where I learned oil painting, which then took me into glass, funny enough. There probably wasn't a better medium to kind of communicate the invisible wounds of war than the transparent medium of glass. So I got this idea in my head several years ago that I was going to start up a glassblowing program.
We have a space that veterans can come to on Sunday mornings for free, and we learn how to work as a team, we learn how to process things.
It has a very campfire-like quality to it, and when I mean campfire, I mean like what kind of comes out with people when they're sitting around a campfire.
I know that whenever I was traveling my project around, there seemed to be a brotherhood that was associated with it.
So back when I was active duty and I was a Master Gunnery Sergeant and I was running teams and we were running whole platoons, you heavily depended on the guy that was to the left and right of you. Unspoken communication was used, hand and arm signals were used, and then you played on the strengths and the weaknesses of the men that were around you. It happens exactly the same way in the glassblowing program. If I need something, I know I can look to somebody that's to the left or right of me and they're gonna get what I need. And it's a trust. It's a trust that I haven't found anywhere else other than in this program with other veterans.
Good job. Zach, Melissa. Bam.
There's dependency upon the person that's working with you, and you have a very heavy, very real sense of purpose with what you're doing with this glass that's at 2,100 degrees Fahrenheit.
You've got to be on your toes, and I know that at one moment I was reaching out, and one of your assistants grabbed my hand. He said, "No, that's hot."
You can't think of anything else when you're working in glass. So I think it makes you very present in the moment, which is very important to me.
And that's got to transform into a serious experience for those that are working with you here.
Find something. Find something. Whether it's glass blowing or woodworking or metal fabricating or photography or taking a walk or meeting up with a few people every couple of times a week. I don't have the schematic on what heals.
But I see that probably there's parallels between what you're doing with glass blowing, working with veterans, and the veterans that came to see my project.
It's the sense of putting your hands on something real. It's touching things. It's a very sensory-laden kind of process that I think was very similar to the Take Me Home Huey project. There are multitudes of opportunities out there. I just think that art is one of the best ways to do it.